and share to the private page. Good morning, everyone. It's a Friday. It's a special Friday because it's a holiday in Metro Manila and the rest of the Philippines. August 21. We've survived this far amidst this pandemic. I know it's not easy for all of us, but we should count our blessings, name them one by one. Count our blessings, see what God has done.
Mic.
The mic is not so good.
How about that? Is that so much better now? I know that's so much better now. Again, I'll say that. Count your blessings. Name them one by one. Count your blessings. See what God has done. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mark Your Day. Good morning, everyone. I miss you all as well. Good morning, magandang umaga, Brother Vince Rodriguez. Good morning, Kuya JV Onod. Good morning, Ate Beng Wolf. Good morning, Ate Colleen Lario. Good morning, my dearest Coach Henry Daut. And Tito Vlogs, good morning, Tito Gilbert Lazaro. Okay, it's a holiday, kaya pag-uusapan natin yung holiday na yan. Pero meron din akong prinamis sa inyo kagabi. In my Facebook post, I said, I will be sharing with you some tips on how you can utilize this pandemic to learn how to communicate better in English. So if you have friends whom you think might want to learn how to speak better English or how to improve their English communication skills, please do share this broadcast to them. Good morning, Pastor Joel Kapirig. Maayong buntag, Pastor Joel. And also, we will be talking about the former Senator Ninoy Aquino in today's broadcast. All right, so let's begin with some good news as we visit what's in the news. Okay, so what's in the news, my friends? Ano ang nasa balita natin ngayon? It's interesting because two of the major big dailies, Philippine Daily Inquirer and Philippine Star, are covering the same news article, and I will give you a rundown of what that article contains or what that headline contains. Before that though, let's check the update from PhilHealth. Okay, ito yung update from PhilHealth. 4,339, 100 out of 109 labs. First, good news there, nag-increase na yung mga number of labs natin. The efficiency is also getting better. And it also says there, NCR still has 2,000 plus. Laguna, Cavite, Cebu is back on the list. And Rizal province or Rizal, yes, the province of Rizal is still there. 91.3% mild cases. Unfortunately, the severe cases have increased, but 4,300 is still good. And as long as it's in NCR, those cases are manageable. It can be handled by our health facilities. Although it's reaching its maximum capacity, it's inching towards full capacity, but I'm hoping that that would go down in the coming days. At naghanda naman po ang gobyerno yung mga benefits ng lockdown. Sabi, marami nagsasabi na sayang lang daw yung mga lockdown ng mga naunang mga araw dahil ngayon kahit na maraming cases, nagbubukas na yung ating ekonomiya. But really, if you think about it, yung lockdown ng unang buwan, hindi naman po yun talaga para mapigilan ang virus or mawala ang virus. Ang lockdown na yon, sinabi na po ng ating mga eksperto, was really to allow for, well, yes, the virus not to spread as quick, but really the main reason for that lockdown is to allow our health workers to slow down so that our health facilities could catch up. Because according to many experts, this virus is here to stay. What is important is the ability to cure it and the vaccine, and our health facilities could catch up with this virus so that if there are recurrences, pwede po nating ma-manage ang virus na ito at hindi po siya kakalat kung saan-saan sa ating bansa na hindi po natin napaghandaan. Good morning, Kuya Mel Chan! Good morning, Ate Cecilia Labustro. Thank you very much for joining the show today. Okay, let's visit the headlines of the big dailies. Let's begin with this one because this is the odd one out in the list of big dailies that we have chosen to feature or to talk about today. Ang headline ng Manila Standard ay PhilHealth IT system cannot or can't detect fraud claims. That's according to the task force formed to look into the PhilHealth problem. Yung PhilHealth IT system that they have commissioned, and it's supposed to be very expensive, unfortunately cannot detect claims that are fraudulent. Meron po yung mga algorithms, meron po yan dapat mga safety mechanisms within the system itself para po ma-detect at ma-prevent yung mga fraudulent cases. Unfortunately, that system daw could not detect it. That's why Senator Richard Gordon and Senator Grace Poe have suggestions in this article. According to Senator Gordon, dapat suspindihin na, alisin na yung mga regional directors na yan. Mahigit 20 years na daw sa PhilHealth yung mga yan, and they have clearly acted out of negligence, incompetence, or even favoritism towards certain hospitals or certain healthcare providers. Manila shuts 4 traders for mislabeling. Ito po yung issue na naging trending din po. Manila, province of the Philippines, pinasara na po ni Mayor Isko Moreno. If it was a bad joke, they are now suffering for their bad joke. If it was for pang-iinis, they are now suffering sa kanilang pang-iinis. Hindi po maganda yon dahil that's a geopolitical matter, that's a diplomacy matter that is within the prerogative of our executive. You could say also with the legislative, at pinag-iisipan po yan. We are not privy to a lot of things that they know in the international relations space. Hindi po natin alam yung mga bagay-bagay. We can trust that they are doing their best to protect the interest of the Philippines. I don't know what your politics is concerning this matter, but I hope you refrain from sharing those nasty jokes about the Philippines being a province of China, because hindi po totoo yun legally, morally, and factually. Ano po meron dyan? Senate ratifies Bayanihan 2 in red letters. Yan din po yung content ng article headline sa Philippine Star. Unahin po natin yung Philippine Star. Bayanihan 2 ratified. Itong Philippine Star contains some details, but there are more details in the Philippine Daily Inquirer's article on this subject. So ano po ang sabi dyan sa Philippine Star article na yan? Ang isa na what struck me from the article of Philippine Star, it says there, the UHC or the Universal Healthcare Act requires that for any vaccine to be purchased by the Philippines, it has to pass through stage 4 trials. But this Bayanihan 2 amends to a certain extent yung requirement na yan ng UHC. Ang sinasabi po ng Bayanihan 2, dahil krisis itong COVID, as long as the World Health Organization certifies this vaccine to be safe, even if it doesn't really go through the strict trials, the standards for coming up with the vaccine, bibili po ang Pilipinas. So it is now, rather than requiring what you call our standard procedures in the release of a vaccine, this law seems to put its trust on the officers and experts at the World Health Organization na sana itong World Health Organization will do its job in making sure that if it does certify something to be safe, it is really safe. Dahil nga krisis ito, magsushortcut yung Pilipinas at ang kanyang magiging basehan sa kanyang desisyon would be the World Health Organization's certification that this particular vaccine is effective. Okay? Maganda at ang balitang ito, syempre meron tayong details from the Inquirer. Dito sa Pogo, kukunin ang budget para sa Bayanihan 2. Palakpakan po natin yan. Gusto ko yan. Ang palakpakan po natin yan dahil yung laging issue, saan kukunin yung pera para pangtustos sa mga pangangailangan natin to fight this pandemic. So we have also been struggling and debating over the presence of this Pogo, itong online gaming businesses in the Philippines. Ano po itong Pogo? Ito po yung mga nagpapa-casino online. Sa maraming kliyente nito are from mainland China. So napakarami po nitong sa Pilipinas or dumadami at malaki po ang kita ng mga ito because those are remittances that go into the Philippines And ang sinasabi ng maraming critics, we're not really benefiting as much from these POGO operations. Marami pang nagsasabi, immoral na nga, wala pa tayong benepisyo mula sa mga ito. So ano magiging benepisyo natin? In the Bayanihan 2, they have identified POGO as one of the major sources of funds for the 140 billion budget to fight this pandemic and to allow the Philippines to recover. What they did was to increase by 5% the franchise taxes of that will be imposed upon all of these POGO operators in the Philippines. Binago po yun nila yung basihan ng computation for the POGO taxes, hoping that we could generate sufficient funds or at least significant amount coming from the operators of these POGOs para po makatulong sa ating pangangailangan. Kung meron din pong health worker na magkasakit ng COVID, mild, 15K subsidy. Medyo severe, 100,000. At kung merong, sana hindi po mangyari, health worker that would die because of this illness or this virus, meron pong grant na 1 million for the family. 5,000 to 8,000 SAP will continue. Cash assistance for teachers in this article. Good news din po yan para sa ating mga teachers. Yung mga workers din ng mga state universities and colleges may avail of cash to work program. So marami pong magagandang balita. Mas lalo pong magaganda ang balita as we read through the article of itong sa Philippine Daily Inquirer. Ano po ang nasa Philippine Daily Inquirer? Bayanihan 2 allots 140 billion for recovery and targeted aid. Okay, I have written my notes down just so I don't miss out on the important details because I'm sure you would be interested on how the government will spend the money. This is part of what you call fiscal policy. In order to have recovery after a crisis or a pandemic, what are important are three things. Monetary policy, yung mga policies ng central bank, para matulungan yung mga bangko na matulungan yung ating mga negosyante sa kanilang loans, sa kanilang liquidity, at yung ating interest rate sa kanilang pagbabayad kung sakali sila uutang, that's critical. At nakatutok po dyan si Central Bank Governor Diokno. Dito naman sa fiscal policy is kung paano gagamit ang gobyerno ng pera para ma-boost yung ating ekonomiya at matulungan yung mga vulnerable sectors. Ayuda at pang-recover ng mga negosyo. So ano po yung gagawin ng gobyerno? Ito po yun. Nag-request ang Malacanang. Gumawa ng the bill comes from Malacanang. Ang gumawa niyan malamang ay yung Department of Finance sa tulong ng NEDA, sa tulong ng iba't ibang cabinet, different cabinets or departments ng ating executive branch. So coming from that proposed bill, isasubmit niyan sa both houses of Congress. Didinggin yan dun sa committee level at aakyat yan hanggang makarating sa plenary. At kung ready na po yung dalawang versions na yon ng bill, bago po yan ma-aproban ng both houses, dadaan po yan sa tinatawag na Bicameral Conference Committee. Ang Bicameral Conference Committee ay isang mekanismo kasi pwedeng magmula yung bill sa Senate tapos ima-match dun sa House, tapos pag nabuo yung dalawang versions na yon, pipirmahan ng dalawa, tsaka po yan isasubmit sa presidente. Meron kang mga budget bills and several other bills na kailangan manggaling mismo sa lower house. Lower house aakyat sa upper house bago pupunta sa presidente. Now, pag nagmamadali po ang isang bansa sa isang legislation, meron kang mga tinatawag na Bicameral Conference Committee para sabay na po nilang tinatalakay. They're tackling the same bill at the same time. The Senate will have its version, the House will have its version, and then at the latter parts of the stage of crafting a bill, they will meet, the representatives of both the House and the Senate would meet and try to reconcile certain provisions that might not be the same. So halimbawa, there's a contentious provision daw in the Bayanihan Act for tourism infrastructure. Merong pinagdebatehan ng 4 na araw dun sa 4 billion tourism infrastructure. So nung dumaan dun sa Bicameral Conference Committee na pag-usapan nila kung ano yung medyo adjustment rather than having a 10 billion budget for infrastructure projects in the tourism sector, ginawa nila ng paraan para mas, according to Congressman Villafuerte, mas holistic yung approach, hindi lang specific to the industry, kasi meron ka namang mga spillover benefits. For example, like invest ka dito sa isang sektor, mabebenepisyohan din naman yung ibang sektor. So let's go through what are the key news item, what are the key entries to this news article. Okay? So una-una, 140 billion yung total na cash allocation. Yung ating total nun is 140 billion. Meron kang programs, according to Senator Angara, cash to work program. Yan yung mga gobyerno, magtatrabaho ka, either maglilinis, magtatanim, etc. And then government will give you cash. So magiging temporary employment coming from government. Meron kang assistance for 3 major sectors ang nabanggit ni Senator Angara. The transport sector needs assistance. Marami po kasing workers dyan, syempre nahirapan, walang pasada, kailangan ng tulong. Kailangan din ng tulong yung agriculture sector para po maka-step up during this pandemic and provide food for our country. And then there's also assistance that will go to the education sector. Kasi kailangan po ng mga teachers ng tulong, kailangan po ng private schools ng mga tulong, kasi bumaba po yung enrollment rate at hindi rin makapag-enroll yung mga bata dahil wala din pang enroll yung mga parents. So kailangan ng tulong doon. The Bayanihan 2 will also provide a budget for the hiring of health workers and also for cash subsidy. This news article says the palace thanks Congress for accepting most of its proposals. There's only very little changes that Congress somehow did on the proposal that came from the executive branch. The same bill will also have a 25.5 billion standby appropriation in case magkulang at kailangan magdagdag. 10 billion will be allotted for vaccines and test kits. So as soon as merong available na vaccine, nag-budget na po agad ang Pilipinas para meron po tayong pangbili ng vaccine. So ready na po. Meron na po tayong budget. Allowed na po ang gobyerno bumili niyan. At sana ang vaccine na mabili natin would really be the most effective vaccine at the best price possible. Kasi nabasa natin yung balita, di ba? Coming from Russia daw. Not to say na hindi magagaling yung Russians. Magagaling siyempre yung Russians. Pero siyempre, kailangan merong sundin na mga standards. And if many of the experts are in agreement that there were shortcuts made in the creation of this vaccine that would somehow create questions in its efficacy or safety, baka kailangan po nating tingnan kung yung ba ang best for us. Meron din pong habulan po yan kung sino makakagawa ng vaccine, because it's business. It's business. It's huge business. Although, what's good is, many of the pharmaceutical companies are saying that even while it's business, they will sell it at a price that will not be for generating a lot of profit. Maybe they would want to recoup their investment, get back their investment, pero hindi po talaga siya magiging money-making for them. That's according to at least AstraZeneca already made that statement. What else do we have that? We also have in this law Sanofi, according to Vincent Rodriguez, Sanofi GSK collaboration vaccine will be available next year, second semester of next year. So yun, pati Sanofi GSK is in that. I know other pharmaceutical companies are also there. Good morning, Auntie Nelly Kali. Good morning, Adi Makaira Bueno. Thanks for joining us today. Okay, what else do we have in this news article? 50 billion will be reserved for lending or financial institutions. So ito yung posibleng SB Corp and other government banks will have a fund for lending to businesses so that they could bounce back at good rates, hopefully. Also interesting from this news article, Bayanihan 2 will also suspend for 3 years most of the permits required for telcos to build cell sites. Palakpakan po natin yan. Kasi alam naman po natin na ang nagpabagal sa construction ng maraming cell sites ay yung napakahabang proseso in order before they could get their permits to build. They get bogged down. And the amount that they spend, whether above board or under the table, is no secret. Kaya, napakagandang balita nito. That they will suspend most of the permits for the next 3 years so that our telecommunication companies could catch up, because we realize now how important telcos, lalo na itong ating mga internet facilities sa work from home, sa study from home, online school. Kung mahina po yung internet, dito lalo sa atin, sa mga nagsistream, online streaming, very important din po. Kasi pag mahina ang internet, hindi po magiging malinaw yung sound, mas lalong hindi magiging malinaw ang video. How about this? Do you like the sound of our broadcast? Is it good? Is it clear? For those who are watching, is it clear? Is the video clear as well? Is it clear? Yes or no? Can you type yes if you find the voice clear, if it's coming across clear, and if the video is also clear? Can you see me clearly? Is it getting to you nicely, my friends? Kasi yung ating yes according to Ate Colleen. Yes din according to Tita Anan, Andrea Vasily. Kasi our provider here, we really love our provider. We've been with Converge Fiber for the past how many years now? Maybe about 3 years now, and we've not had any problems with them at all. And our subscription originally was for only 50 Mbps. But they bumped it up for free for their first few customers, because we're one of the first few who jumped into Converge. We're the first in our area. As soon as we saw Converge put up that box, and unfortunately the box is right in front of our house, the fiber box. I said, as soon as you can sell, connect, link us up. So what's nice is for the first few subscribers, they bumped up from our 50 Mbps subscription at 2,500 a month. They gave us a 100 Mbps speed for the same price. So we're running at 100 Mbps here, which allows us to stream. Hi, Ate Laureline Reynolds, good morning all the way from Oklahoma. Good morning. Ate Saiki, Kuya Dr. Benson Go. Hello, Dr. Benson Go. Our beloved speaker the last time. We will have him back. Do you want Dr. Benson Go to come back and help us with our mental health concerns in the coming weeks? I will certainly love to talk to him again. All right. Kuya Steve Arquiza from Davao says it's very clear. Yes, because Converge is good. So I'm hoping that with this news article, it says there the telcos can put up their cell sites for without having to pay so many permits for and suspending it for 3 years will facilitate the spread of the facilities, internet facilities all over. There's also a 60-day grace period for repayment of loans and credit cards according to this bill. 6 billion will be allocated for SME support, 1 billion for tourism infrastructure, and yes, the source will be from Pogo. Good morning, Ate Edith Castillo Vejano and Ate Olin Pascual. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us today. What will I talk about next? Did you like the good news coming from our big dailies? I like it. Our country is preparing for bounce back, and according to USEC Carl Kendrick Chua, we are capable of funding our recovery. And that's why many of the economists around the world are saying that maybe next year, the Philippines could bounce back with a 7.2% growth, even if now we're in recession. But what's really my encouragement for everyone? Kuya Steve, mga taga Davao. Sino pa ba taga Davao? Kuya Benson Go, taga Cagayan de Oro. And the rest of the Philippines, build businesses outside Metro Manila. Our logistics is already getting better. Ate Saiki from Dipolog, if we can have stronger farms all over the Philippines, if we can have better manufacturing in many of the different parts of the Philippines, if we can spread the businesses all over this archipelago, spread all of our people outside of Metro Manila, then we won't have so much concentration of human beings in one area alone of Metro Manila and its nearby places, thereby allowing the Philippines to develop evenly across the archipelago at hindi po madaling mag-spread yung virus dahil siksikan po dito sa Metro Manila. Alam nyo, dito sa aming barangay, it's a pretty wide barangay, but because we have also one of the biggest resettlement areas, when Bayani Fernando resettled some informal settlers back then, they created an area along the river, but the congestion is so high, and that's where the cases are coming from. So it's so hard to social distance when people are just living in such congested communities. All right. As I move forward, I promised I will be talking about how we can speak English better and how we can use this quarantine to prepare for that and to develop our English communication skills. That's what we will talk about for the What's Interesting section. Good morning, Kuya JV Jovenal from DNR Region 11, and hi to friends from DNR Region 11. Good morning, Ma'am Queenie Ong Wong. Have you considered relocating your business in Mindanao? Si Trisha wants to relocate it up north, Ma'am Queenie. She loves the Baguio area, so given a chance, if we could relocate towards the northern part, because we are big fans of Baguio City. So if La Union maybe area, that part, maybe Pangasinan area, that's something that we're considering. That's something we're considering. How about you, Ma'am Queenie? Are you considering moving your manufacturing of RM boxes somewhere else? That's something that we should consider. Something we should consider because, number one, cost of doing business here is much higher. The minimum wage rates here in NCR is almost double the minimum wage rates in other areas of the Philippines. The cost of food, the cost of transport, the cost of housing. So for every peso earned by our employees here, the same amount makes the employees in the provinces have a better life. So quality of living in other areas of the Philippines is much better. Okay, so what will I talk about today? I promised you that I will share with you my tips on how we could improve our communication skills, our English communication skills. I know that we are all in different levels and stages of our growth as communicators. Many of us don't speak English as a first language. Most of us speak English as our second language. Either Tagalog is your first language and then English would be next, or Cebuano is your first language and then English would be next. Some kids who grow up in homes and in schools who speak English primarily would have maybe English, Filipino English as their primary language. So, hindi sila ganun ka nahihirapan sa kanilang English language proficiency. But this show is really for those who desire to improve their English speaking skills. So, Ma'am Queenie Ong is saying that's an interesting idea. Of course, it's nice to dream, Ma'am Queenie, diba? To be able to help the provinces. And imagine if you can put up a plant kahit na dito lang sa Bulacan or Pampanga area where ito pa yung idadagdag ko, Ma'am Queenie. You know why I'm interested to consider doing business in the province? You know what's really nice about the province? You know what I really like about the province? The public school system in the provinces is actually much better than the public school system here in Metro Manila. You know why? Because here there's just so much congestion. So even if you have good teachers, or no matter how they try to teach better, but if there are 60 students cramped in a schoolroom and there are several shifts during the day, it's just not conducive for learning in many of the public schools. So if you have a minimum wage earner and the kid goes to a public school here, the kid will get better education. I'm just stating facts coming from DepEd, okay? They will get better education if they go to the provinces. The second reason why that is so, Ma'am Queenie, kasi yung sweldo ng DepEd teacher dito, pareho lang sa sweldo ng DepEd teacher sa Siquijor, sa Pangasinan. Pareho lang ang sweldo ng DepEd teacher sa La Union. Yung cost of living doon mas mura. Kaya yung buhay ng isang DepEd teacher doon mas maganda kaysa sa buhay ng DepEd teacher dito. So the quality of life of a teacher there or a government worker there is so much better than the quality of life of government workers here. So yun po yung isang reason why sa mga probinsya, if you look at many of the mga scholars, in fact here, marami ang coming from the provinces as well because the public school system there are just very good. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so what are my tips so that we could speak English better? Good morning, Ma'am Shay Panlilio. Good morning, Ate Rosana Sambile. Good morning. Sa aking mga friends from SM, good morning. Okay, here are a few tips. If you want to speak better English, the first thing that I would recommend is really this, and I have been repeating this all my life. You need to read. If you want to speak better English, if you want to communicate better, you need to develop the habit of reading. Good speaking will come from good reading. Okay, I'll break it down a bit. When people read, I would lump them together, meaning those who read, into three major categories. No, you could read because you want to be entertained or you want to learn. You're a consumer of material, okay? So you want to be entertained or you want to put in certain things into your head. That's one kind of reading. The second kind of reading is you read because you want to generate your own thoughts. You read because you want to generate insight. So not only are you taking information, you're allowing your brain to process that information to create insight, okay? Those are business people who are looking for something to apply. Those are teachers who are looking something to develop for teaching their students. Or there are, for example, consultants and trainers like us. When we read, we don't just read to absorb. We read so we can come up with ideas and come up with insights, okay? Those are not the two kinds of reading that I would suggest for you, okay? If you're trying to learn how to communicate better, there's a third kind of reading that I want you to do. And what is this third kind of reading? You read so you would know how to create sentences, how to put together ideas, okay? So you're reading now not just to absorb what it says, not to create ideas out of what you're reading. You're reading so you will know how you should say things. Because if you're not a first language speaker of English, you will have words and you will have words, vocabulary, and grammar, but how you could put them together so they can form sentences and paragraphs that will make sense is something that you need to see. Okay? So if you haven't really put your mind into that position or frame or perspective, then you could either be falling on those two first categories. You're reading just to consume and be entertained, or you're reading to generate ideas, but you're not reading to know how to say things, how to put words together, okay? When you're reading to consume, you usually read fast. So when I'm reading to just consume, I'm reading fast. When you're reading to generate insight, this is usually the rhythm. You read fast and then you stop. You think and process. You could be writing things down. And then the third kind of reading that I encourage you to do is actually a reading that is slow. It's going to be slow because you're reading and trying to look how they're using the word, how to put together the sentence. Ganun yun. Now, anong klaseng material? Kuya Mel wants to share something. I remember Ateneo days when many professors asked us to read the Inquire Opinions section. There's the rub by Conrado de Quiros to learn sentence construction, cohesion, word choice, etc. Yes, because Conrad de Quiros was one of the most brilliant opinion makers. But, okay, that leads me to my topic now, Kuya Mel. What should you read? If you are a person called to create opinion, then you read Conrad de Quiros. But for example, you're an artist, and you want to communicate better as an artist in English, you don't read Conrad de Quiros. You read an artist who writes about art. So you read, for example, let's say it's Zach Perlman. You read, for example, maybe even Jessica Safra. You read artists who write their thoughts. You read artists who communicate their passions. So if you read kasi, for example, you're an athlete, you want to communicate better as an athlete, you go to the sports section. You go read sports magazines. If you're an artist, you read artist material. If you're a businessman, you read businessman material. If you're an opinion maker, you read opinion maker. Okay, opinion articles. Kasi the kind of language that they use and the kind of syntax that they use and semantics. Syntax is how you put words together, and semantics is the use of words, will be different depending on the kind of message that they're saying and the kind of audience that they're saying it to. All right. So, if si Kuya Mark, for example, if I want to talk to, let's say my talk for this particular week would be with a young audience, I would try to read material that would be for the young, because that's how I would recalibrate my words. Because, for example, I'm talking to businessmen, I would read business books because I would be speaking the language of the businessmen. But if I'm speaking with the language of athletes, then I would read those things. So, sentence construction and word construction and ideas creation will be industry specific and audience specific. Okay? Very good topic for the day, very helpful for all of us. It's is the mic not in full volume? Parang may kulang sa sound, just an observation. Okay. Maybe I'm too far from my mic, Uncle Henry. Okay, is that better now? Oh, I'm sorry if I'm speaking away from my mic. Okay. I will be speaking closer to my mic. Is that better now, Uncle Henry? I think I was just speaking too far from my microphone. Okay. So, the first one is read. There are 3 types of reading, at least general categories. Read to consume, read to create insight, but there's a third kind that I want you to do. Read to know how to create sentences and paragraphs. So read slowly. So that's how you use it. For example, you leverage on your people. You leverage on your people. You leverage on your strengths. Those are business terms. Athletes don't use so much leverage unless you're talking to a shot put player, you're talking about leverage, or you're talking to a boxer, you're talking about leverage. But artists don't use that word as much. So for example, artists would probably talk about getting into the zone or flowing or texture or atmosphere. So they use different kinds of words specific to their industry. So depende kung sino ang kausap mo, yun ang babasahin mo. Depende kung ano yung iyong subject matter, yun yung iyong babasahin. Are there questions so far? Is the sound better now, Uncle Henry? Yes, I can increase the volume. I can increase the volume as well, but it's nice to actually... It's actually the distance from the mic. I'm sorry, I got a bit lazy today. I should speak closer to the mic because this mic actually sounds very good if I speak close. Huh? Teachers from Tambo Central School. So yes, ma'am. So mga teachers, basa tayo ng material na specific to our subject. 117 teachers from Tambo Central School. Maayong buntag kaninyong tanan. Thank you sir, so much, Sir Dodong Iner. Okay. Ikaduha. Number 2. If you want to speak better English and communicate, maybe I should do something just specific to teachers, no? Maybe I should do something specific to teaching in the new normal. Because I'm a teacher, I teach, but I teach mostly adults and corporate people. But if I could share my thoughts on how teachers could teach better, what do you think? Should I do a show on that? Maybe I could ask my dear friend Ate Elma Ropeta to partner with me in that project of doing something specific to teachers. I'll think about it. Sige lang, Sir Dodong Inar. You just gave me an idea there. Number 2, if you want to speak better English, you need to think in English. You need to develop the habit of thinking in English because words are formed in the head. Words are not formed on paper. Words are not formed on a keyboard. Words are formed in your head. So if you want to have better flow, you need to train your brain to be thinking in English. You should not be thinking in Binisaya or you shouldn't be thinking in Tagalog and then trying to translate your ideas and say, how do I say, unsaon gani natog storya, paano ko nga sasabihin yan in English? So you're doing a translation as you're creating your sentences. Mahirap yon. And that creates lags in your delivery. Kaya hindi po siya. So what did I do? Here's a practical tip. What did I do? Mga ma'am, well, you think in English by when you're preparing, you're talking to yourself in English, you're reading English, you imagine yourself all the time talking to your children in English. You imagine yourself all the time in your head. You're not even opening your mouth. Talking to your colleagues in English. You're talking to your principal in English. You're talking to your husband in English. Even if you're not saying anything. You're just thinking. But you're talking in English in your head. Okay? So yun yung unang-una na... This is a good idea. If you have a PRC ID, we can ask you to be one of our speakers for CPD for teachers in the new normal. Okay. Do I have a PRC ID? I don't think I have a PRC ID. Ate Raquel. Okay. I have a IBP ID, an integrated bar. I did not take the teachers board maybe I should have taken the teacher's board since my minor in college was really teaching. Okay, so think in English. So in your idle time, think in English. When you're imagining yourself, diba? Sometimes you think of yourself talking to others. You rehearse in your head. When you do that, you think in English. Now, third one is you want to speak English as often as you can. You speak English as often as you can. In school, I would suggest that you speak in English to your colleagues, to your fellow teachers, to your fellow businessmen, to your office mates. Wag po tayong mahihiya. Wag po tayong magsabi na OA, OA, OA. Yung problema kasi sa Pilipino, napakataas ng ating tendency na mag-isip, ay OA man, luod man, awkward naman. Wag. Because we're learning. It will really start OA at first, but as you speak it more, it becomes more natural. The goal is to be so comfortable with it that you're no longer thinking how you speak it. You're so comfortable with it that you're no longer projecting that I'm speaking in English. Alam mo yun? Because you would know how it is with new speakers of the language, lalo sa Filipino. It's when speaking language is a means of showing off that you're better than others. That's not a good way of speaking language, because language should disappear. You reach a certain level of proficiency that language becomes a tool for meaning. Language is a means for you to express. Language should not be your means to prove that you're smart and competent. No. When you're using it as a means to show you're competent, then language becomes something that is separate from you, and you're enunciating. It becomes so unnatural. It becomes so unnatural. So meaning you're reading a lot specific to your subject, you're thinking in English, that it becomes natural for you to be thinking in English, and you're speaking it often enough that it's normal, and you're no longer projecting, you're no longer using it as a means, meaning, nga nung nag-in-English man ka, mag-in-English man yun ko. Bakit ka nag-i-English? Talagang nag-i-English naman talaga ako, ganito naman talaga. And this is really how I express. So, that's the goal. To reach a level where English no longer is a badge that you wear. English is just a language that you use. English is no longer a proof that you're smart. You're done proving that in elementary and high school. You learned your language very well in elementary and high school. You already got the medal for it. You already got the ribbon for it. Don't use it anymore to prove that you're smart. No. Because it will sound like you're projecting the use of the language. Hindi siya masyado magandang pakinggan. So the more natural, the better. Sabi ni Ate Raquel, that is one of the requirements so that we can ask you to train teachers. We need you. I will ask the PRC peeps if they can reconsider the requirements. Don't worry, Ate Raquel. I will work with my friends to have a work around that. I remember our rostrum training days with you guys, with you Kois at CSSH lobby. Thank you, Josil, for remembering that. I'm sorry if I was so mean before. I was so mean to my trainees before in MSU when I was one of the senior debaters. I was also a little mean when I was in Davao. I was really hard on the younger learners. Because I was so competitive. I don't know why. Back then. Now, I have relaxed more. Mas buutan ako ron, Jo, di ba? Mas nice na ko ron, di ba? Sa una isugay ko, di ba? So, think of it. Okay. But, how do you develop thinking in English? And if you want to speak more in English, but you don't have anyone to speak it with. This is my technique. If people around you are speaking in Bisaya or Tagalog or Ilocano or Ilonggo, you know what I did before in order to train my brain to think in English and to still be practicing my proficiency skills? I translated everything that they were saying. So for example, one would say, "Kumusta ka na?" So in my head, I say, "How are you, my friend?" Sagot naman yung isa, "Mabuti naman. I'm good." Tanong naman yung isa, "Pupunta ka sa party mamaya?" In my head, "Are you going to the party later?" Sagot naman yung isa, "Ewan ko, nagdadalawang isip ako." Paano ba translate yun? That's what I mean. So for example, ewan ko, nagdadalawang isip ako. Na how do you say that in English? Ewan ko, nagdadalawang isip ako. That's why you read. Because as you read books, you read more novels, you read more stories, then you would know how to say those things. Then you would know how to say those things na hindi mo siya i-directly translate. I don't know, I'm 2 by 2. You don't it's not other, because there are ways of saying things that English language speakers employ. Okay? So speak in English, think in English, and even spend time translating things that people around you are saying in other languages. Number 4 tip. This is for a higher level. When you have mastered your basic communication, conversational English, and you want to move up to a higher level where you're able to exposit and sabi ni Kuya Melchan, no, I'm having second thoughts. See? Magaling kasi mag-English yan si Kuya Melchan kasi Ateneo yan eh. So, if you've mastered your English conversation skills and you want to move up a level where you can discuss topics, where you can explain thoughts, when you can persuade people and you can somehow convince them to follow your direction, what do you do in order to develop the ability to really develop thoughts well, expound on certain subjects? How do you do that? How do you develop the ability to expound and to persuade? How do you do that? Okay. The way to do that is to actually write. You don't learn how to expound on things by speaking too much. You learn that because of your English conversation needs. But when you're beginning to exposit, explain, persuade, unpack certain concepts, you want to write a post regularly. You can write this on Facebook. You can write this on Instagram. You can write it in any social media platform. If you have a pen and paper, which I always do, you can write it on a pen and with a pen and paper. I write. So what you do is you write concepts. See, this is how my presentation looks like before it becomes a PowerPoint. I create boxes there and I write down what I think should be in a PowerPoint. I don't go straight into a PowerPoint. So I write a lot so it's what you see as something that you think is extemporaneous, which actually went through a process of unpacking them and putting them together. So how do you develop the ability to explain? Write. You know what? One of the most senior lecturers in the Philippines, trainer, Mr. Francis Kong, actually started his career not as a speaker but as the editor-in-chief of his school publication. He was really a writer. That's why he knows how to string together words. That's why if you read through Francis's posts on Facebook, they're very well written because he's a writer. And he told us before that when he started his speaking career, he used to write his content word for word. So my suggestion to you, write on Facebook regularly. Not just what you eat, where you went. Really write your thoughts and opinions on Facebook and then edit it as often as you can. Balik-balikan yan and check your grammar as often as you can. That's what I do. I still do that to this day. Okay? Write a post. Write your opinion on Facebook. And then, balik-balikan mo siya. Improve mo siya every day. 9:00 na pala. Humaba yung discussion natin ngayon. Number 5. Study grammar and pronunciation. Review. You will not learn grammar, by the way, by just reading. You need to go back to your grammar rules. Go back to your grammar rules. There are a lot of YouTube videos that could help you revisit your grammar, be reminded of your grammar rules. Keep revisiting your grammar. Yung subject-verb agreement is very basic. Tapos, pag medyo advanced ka na, okay na yung subject-verb agreement mo, maraming Pilipino ang struggle niya is yung in, on, at, yung ating prepositions. So, maraming nagsa-struggle sa prepositions. So, yun yung pwede mong aralin. But you don't just learn those by just reading. You learn them by really studying so that when you read, you understand the structure, you understand the rules as they are written. Study your grammar, again, my friends, and your pronunciation. Yung sa pag-pronounce, ang mga Bisaya, nagsa-struggle yan usually sa E and I. E o I. Matigas yung I. For example, regular Bisaya would say, beadings, bead shit, bead. Hindi yan masyado nakaka-pronounce ng bed. That's why you hear many Bisaya would say, instead of saying forever, they would say forever. Gahi. Ang Tagalog naman, most Tagalog struggle with pronouncing TH. Lalo na that if the TH falls within the sentence. So most Tagalog say within, father. Nagiging D yung TH. Even if they pronounce the TH at the beginning of the word, but usually when the TH lands in the middle of a phrase or in the middle of a word, most of them make a mistake of not pronouncing it properly, especially their TH. They usually pronounce it with a D. And so you miss the beauty of the father. The father. Whether the buzz of the letters T and H creates such faith, father, weather. Sayang, nawawala kasi nagiging weather, father, nagiging ganon. So, practice tayo ng ating pronunciation. Last but definitely not the least, you need to ask your friends to critique you. Ask friends to critique you in quiet, na hindi yung ganon. So if you have friends whom you know are better English speakers than you, who know grammar better than you can ask them to critique you. But don't ask them to critique you if you haven't done your work first. Meaning, review ka muna ng grammar mo and your pronunciation. As soon as you review that, then you can ask them to critique you. Or you can do it simultaneously. All right. So yun po yung ating mga tips. I can go on and on and on and on doing this, but it's already 9 o'clock and I don't want to I don't want to take up so much of their time. So that's it for what's interesting today. Let's talk about finally what's trending. Sabi daw ni Fine Yi, people also make a mistake with their P and F. Yes, father. For Iber. Yes, that's also a common Filipino, not just specific to Bisaya or Tagalog. It's actually quite common. So, when I was teaching reading and language before, kailangan talagang i-practice yung P and then it's really in the positioning. It's actually quite easy to teach. When it's a P, just remember to close your lips. When you see a P, okay. All the rest you can go. P, close your lips. If it's an F, bite your lower lips. Position. Bite your lower lips. Father. Bite your lower lips. Purse your lips like this. P. Post. Perfect. Dili na. Perfect. Perfect. Feather. Bite your lower lip. Dili gina siya map. If you bite your lower lip when you see an F, it's impossible for it to be a plosive. P. Because in order for it to create the P sound, you need your lips to pop. P. But if you already bit your lower lips, it can no longer be a P. So simple lang na kayo siya. It's so easy to teach that. If they see a P, close your lips. If you see an F, bite your lower lip. Okay? So those are some of the techniques that we used when we were teaching pronunciation. My teachers are interacting with you. I don't know where they're interacting. Are they interacting in my private page? Nagbibisaya ka. Okay, what's interesting? What's interesting today? The Philippines celebrates the death anniversary of Ninoy Aquino. I know many of us have been polarized because of politics. But today I appeal to all my kababayans. Let's celebrate the life of this man. It doesn't matter what politics you hold, whether you're pro or anti-Duterte, because this man, whatever his politics was as well, was used by God to rouse the Filipinos, to convince the Filipinos to step up and fight for their freedom. When he was assassinated, whether it was a staged assassination, that's preposterous. You don't stage your own assassination, and I don't think anyone would want to do that. But those mga conspiracy theories and preposterous statements, I would suggest that we put that aside. Let's leave aside our politics and just celebrate the life of this person who gave up his life in order for us to realize the need to fight for our democracy. Realize the need to fight for our democracy. Whatever revisionist statements, martial law was not good for us. Martial law drove our economy to the ditch. Martial law caused our economy to really suffer. So it doesn't matter whoever sat there after martial law. What is important for me is it started the journey towards where we are now. If you're a fan of Duterte, think of the death of Ninoy as the way that paved the way for Duterte to become president. If you're a fan of the Liberal Party, think of the death of Ninoy in order to allow for Filipino parties to be revived. The Liberal Party was practically dead during the martial law, but it revived that as well. So it doesn't matter. Think of it as a big step towards where we are now, a big step towards democracy. For those who are interested to learn how to speak better, I would encourage you to find the videos of Ninoy on YouTube. He had a series of lectures in Los Angeles when he was exiled there, and he had very, very good points, and he delivered brilliantly on those good points, and he was very funny, very witty, very smart. That's where you realize how brilliant this man was. I spent so many days. I keep visiting all of those videos. Again, I don't care what your politics is. This man speaks well. This man is brilliant. And I also enjoyed his interview with Charles Colson where he talked about his faith. I believe this man was a man of faith before he died at least. And he was eloquent. He was brilliant. And today we celebrate his sacrifice for the nation. However you want to think about it, I would encourage you instead to think of it as a major step towards rebuilding democracy in our country. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me today. Thank you very much to all the teachers. Mayong buntag ninyong tanan. Pagpasensyahin ninyo og wala ko nakatubag sa inyong mga komento sa ating mga kababayan na Tagalog. Pagpasensyahan nyo kung nagbibisaya ako paminsan-minsan dahil meron po akong pagmamahal din sa ating mga kababayang Bisaya. Pero for all of you who wish to learn your English better, keep at it. Develop the ability to speak it by writing, by thinking, by reading, by practicing, by having critics around you who will help you, but also do your job. Review your grammar and your pronunciation. Language is not a badge. Language should not be something you should flaunt because language is a means to communicate meaning, and you should communicate meaning well. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless you. I hope to see you all again on Monday. And you missed Trisha last Wednesday because I was so busy with trainings. We hope to have Trisha join us again Wednesday next week. Please check out my YouTube channel, dear teachers. Please like the YouTube channel of Mark Castrodes. Please visit that YouTube channel. Click like and the bell so that you can get notifications. We will announce a special episode just for teachers so I could teach you. Do you like this setup? The sound here, the video here, the clarity, the warmth. You can actually have this in your home. And it's not so expensive. So don't fall for those cheap buys and quick fixes. There's a way of doing online learning well. I hope to put that together soon and share it with you. In order to catch the news on when we will have those shown, please follow this page, this Mark Astrodex page. And important for us, please like and subscribe and click the bell button on our YouTube channel. God bless everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Be thankful always. Keep safe. God bless.